This is Tyrese Halliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
What is up, Pacer Nation? Welcome in live to the YouTube page here, Setting the Pace, a Pacers podcast. The Indiana Pacers take a commanding 2-0 series lead as they defeat the Milwaukee Bucks 123-115. And here to talk with me about that is Mike Facci and Derek Schultz. But Facci, I just got to ask you, the pep in the step on a Wednesday morning is going to be even greater than it's ever been before.
I told you guys last time, I'll tell you it again, that playoff pep just hits differently in the step. It's real right now, a 2-0 lead, something Indiana hasn't experienced since 2013. Man, the pep on the step on a Wednesday morning. Let's keep it going all the way to Friday morning.
Woo. I love that. 2 days rest here for the Pacers. They don't have to play until Friday, and we kind of get to milk this cow a little bit more as the Pacers are going to pretty much go a whole week without potentially having a loss here. So Derek Schultz staying up late with us tonight, joining us, was not able to make it for Game 1's post-game recap, which I had originally asked him for at a more reasonable time, but he committed to the late-night bit. So Derek, thanks so much for coming on. How you doing, and what did you think of the game tonight?
I'm doing great. Anytime we get to see Facci's pasty white arms in a victory, it is inspiring. I am just awestruck. It is beautiful. No, it's great. Obviously, it got a little bit hairy there at the end, but I do think, even as a live stream reaction show where I think you're more prone to kind of give knee-jerk reactions, I think I have some measured Pacers takes where I just feel very comfortable and confident with where they are and where this series has been so far here moving forward. And I think that's a really good place to be.
No, absolutely. I mean, this was a game right here where it was really interesting because it felt like the Pacers getting out to that early lead in the first quarter was essentially what got them the victory in the end. I know you can say the Pacers made big shots, stuff like that, but the Bucks found something there in that second half where they were kind of able to muck things up for Indiana. And Facci, I'll just start with you. Like, I know there's a lot of areas we can start with the Pacers, but I just want to start things off with the game that Bobby Portis had, because I don't know if we're ever going to see Bobby Portis replicate this in this series, but I think that the Bucks have found something here with Bobby Portis as the 5, and we saw how Brook Lopez was very limited minute-wise in tonight's game.
Yeah, I felt like at times when Brook Lopez got switched on to Halliburton, he was just absolutely attacking them. I feel like Bobby Portis came alive in that second half. I believe he had 11 points in the fourth quarter. It was just he was their number 2 tonight. 28 points. It's one shy of a playoff career high for Bobby Portis. I definitely expect that we'll see more of, Bobby Portis being a little bit more, I don't want to say consistent like this, because, he's not going to do this. This was his big explosion, but he is a big piece for Milwaukee, and I think Milwaukee absolutely needs guys to step up. He did step up, but like you said, the Milwaukee dug themselves in such a hole early on that it was really hard to dig out of. Bobby was a big part of a 13-0 Milwaukee run in that fourth quarter that had me sweating a bit.
Yeah, Derek, it was a really interesting moment there where Bobby Portis was more of a threat from 3 than Damian Lillard, and it was just like you can't leave Bobby open. But I mean, you got to give the Bucks a lot of credit for going to that. But obviously, elephant in the room, Damian Lillard makes his return tonight. Derek, what did you think about the way he played? I would say, from my personal perspective, just the fact that he was able to play 37 minutes was the most impressive thing to me after not playing for basically a month.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he looked like he was rusty, right? But to play as long as he did and just to be out there to draw attention, I think helped the Bucks. I was real sort of squeamish about the people that were saying, oh, Lillard's not going to play, but that's actually a good thing for the Bucks. I'm thinking to myself, are we sure about that? Especially when it comes to the playoffs and all of that. So, he hit that big 30-footer that cut it to 2, right? And then you were really thinking, oh God, this can't possibly be happening here. But thankfully that feeling was short-lived. I thought overall he was just kind of sort of okay and kind of sort of rusty, but I still think his presence helped lift them up in general. But guys, I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that, everyone that the Pacers are putting on the floor is doing something to contribute to winning. And the Bucks, it's just not the case for them. They've just got too many guys that are out there that are just zeros. And, you really didn't get anything. You mentioned from Brook Lopez, he's getting hunted and then he's on the bench. 16 minutes that he played. AJ Green did nothing, right? Gary Trent Jr. really didn't do much of anything. KPJ had the big 3 to end the third quarter. Kuzma had one stretch in the third. Okay, or at least he did something, right? He didn't get a bunch of zeros. Whereas seemingly every single Pacer contributed something to the victory that was on the floor tonight, at least certainly the guys that played major minutes. And I just keep going back to that. I think, we spent so much time talking about, oh my God, like what's Giannis going to do? And oh man, if Dame does this or if Portis does that, and I'm thinking to myself, some of their parts wise, 1 through 8, 1 through 9, to me, there's just no question who the better team is in this series just overall. And that's what makes me so confident here going forward with a 2-0 lead.
Facci, anything you want to add to that?
Absolutely. So going to the point on Dame, look, Dame had been talking a lot of smack, and I want to start off by giving Dame a lot of credit because he overcame blood clots. That's a significant, scary situation. 37 minutes, like you mentioned, I believe he played like the full fourth quarter. But early on, he had 11 points in the first half. He was at 3 of 6 shooting. He went 1 of 7 in the second half, primarily being guarded by Andrew Nemhard. And Nembhard, I've said it before, has had Dame's number this year. He defends him very, very well. Derek, you touched on that big 3. It was a big 3. It cut to a 2-point game, but that was it. That was his only made basket of the second half. His only points of the second half. And just when you touched on like how Indiana's been the better team from top to bottom, they have. Pat Boylan had a great stat he tweeted out. Milwaukee led 8-7 in game 1 at one point. That is the last lead that they have had in this series. Indiana has led for the last 92 minutes and 50 seconds of this game. That means that essentially, we're talking about under 2 minutes of Milwaukee even having any sort of lead through 2 games. Giannis has been a stud. He's been who we thought and who we knew he would be. Indiana, top to bottom, has been a complete team that is not shying away from their depth, and it shows. Once again, 6 Pacers in double figures, all 5 starters. Like you said, Derek, absolutely brought something to the table tonight.
I just want to add this. I think that while Andrew Nembhard did a great job defending Dame there towards the end of the game, I think we got to give a lot of credit to Aaron Nesmith, who started out on him in the second half because Nembhard did have 3 fouls. So, there for a moment there, I thought Dame was going to get cooking because Nembhard fouled him in the corner in the first half, and things started to get a little bit tight once the Pacers got that big lead in the first half once again. But I just think Aaron Nesmith had some really big moments, like just starting out the second half, with that big 3 against their zone and kind of get that lead back up to 16, 18 points after the Bucks had just cut it to 8 at the half. I thought he had some big-time shots in this one as well. But, this is a tall task for him with what they're asking him to do by guarding Giannis so much. And I felt like a lot of times whenever they would pull Pascal out and throw Nesmith on Giannis, it just allows the Bucks to get easier looks with him. And so I'm not sure how you can adjust too much to what you're trying to do against Giannis. I think whatever they're doing is working to a certain extent. I'm a little bit concerned about the size disadvantage there from Nesmith. It works at times, but you're going to have to send a lot of double teams to try to cut that off, Derek. And I felt like at times they almost got themselves so focused on that with with Nesmith guarding Giannis. And so guys were getting open looks. And I think that is going to be another adjustment that the Bucks can make, especially with how easy Giannis got some looks tonight.
Yeah, and we knew, Alex, that they weren't going to shoot the way that they did in game 1, right?
Right.
As good as the Pacers played in that game, a lot of that deficit, I think, was just what did the Bucks have? I saw something afterwards, like their 3rd or 4th worst 3-point shooting effort of the entire season, I think, in game 1. So you knew that water was going to kind of find its level, and you did see them knock down some more open shots. Not crazy. 40% from 3 is really good, but and a lot of that was Portis fueled, right? What he was able to do there in the fourth quarter. But it's almost like it's cliche to kind of go back to the let Giannis get his and try to take away everybody else. But in a way, I think there's some element of truth to that, where regardless of what you do against Giannis, he's one of the 3, 4, 5 best players in the world. He's going to get his. That's just the bottom line. It's about not letting Portis go off for 28 or not letting Dame go off for, 30, 35 or whatever it is. And the Pacers have done, Portis aside, fourth quarter, have done a pretty good job of kind of limiting that. Certainly they did that in game 1. And, even in this game, Giannis had 34 and he was very efficient, and he crashed the glass, and, he did all the things to impact the game. But this was essentially, outside of a bad 3.5-minute stretch in the fourth quarter, guys, this was an 8 to 12 point game basically the whole night. Like every single time the Bucks made even a mini charge, they got it to 8, they got it to 9. Pacers just come back and make 2 shots, and it's back to 12, it's back to 13. I mean, essentially, after the first quarter, they played pretty much an even game the rest of the way. So we're talking about like the first quarter and the first 8 minutes of the first quarter, and then like the first 3 minutes of the second half, and then outside of that, it was just kind of like the Pacers were cool, just sort of keeping them at arm's length before obviously that finishing stretch where really the Pacers only needed to make 1 shot, and they got it from Siakam, then they got another one from Nemhard. All they needed was 1 shot, 1 rebound, and when that finally came through, that was all she wrote.
Yeah, I want to say this real quick. I just think that Rick Carlisle brought up a really good point in the post-game press conference, just highlighting how the Pacers got too caught up in playing isolation basketball, and they weren't playing their style. And I think they're, like you mentioned, Derek, on that Pascal Siakam big time 3 to get the lead back up to 5 points. You see the Bucks break down defensively because they're switching everything, and both guys switched. I think it was onto Miles Turner. Nembhard sees they leave Siakam wide open, and Siakam hits the biggest shot of the game to get that lead back up to 2 possessions. And then they get that stop they need, Facci, and then Andrew Nemhard hits that big step back 3 over Giannis when really he didn't have a choice but to shoot it. Once again, Andrew Nemhard, ball in his hand, shot clock expiring. What do you expect? He's going to make the shot. So I just thought that the Pacers, Facci, were able to attack almost everything the Bucks threw at them defensively. They did have some moments where, Milwaukee was, strong defensively, but I don't think the Pacers really have any concern about being able to get the looks they want against this Bucks defense.
They had good looks even when they were missing them. When Indiana was going cold, they had missed like 5 straight shots during that like 13-0 run by Milwaukee. It was good looks. Just the Pacers couldn't convert those threes. You mentioned that Siakam 3 when it was a 2-point game, massive. But there was something about that Nemhard step back 3 on Giannis that was a true moment. This man is a gamer. He steps his game up in bigger situations. He also, remember, you got to remember, the very next time he has Giannis on skates, he's trying to cross him up. Giannis was forced to just wrap him up. Like, Nemhard was feeding off of that. He always seems to be better when he has less time to think about it, and he could just get the ball and just kind of shoot it and be quick with it. That 3 was huge. That was the first time where I really felt, okay, you know what? We're going to be able to close this one out. So Nemhard, massive in this game. But another thing I want to touch on is the little things. It's not going to show up, but once again, Indiana has single-digit turnovers. They have under 10 turnovers. They have done an incredible job protecting the ball. So tonight, 30 assists to 8 turnovers. Incredible. Over 3-to-1 assist to turnover. But what about going 19 of 19 from the free throw line? In a game like this, where you find yourself in a 2-point game in the fourth quarter, the fact that you were perfect from the free throw line compared to Milwaukee missing 6, that is just huge. So in the comments, Mosin, I hope I'm pronouncing that. I know you touched on that 19-19 from the free throw line. Just massive, cannot be understated enough. Indiana doing all the little things to be able to now go up 2-0 as we head over to Milwaukee. It's a top to bottom effort. Love it.
Yeah, Facci, 25-13 for the 2 games in turnovers. So,
unbelievable.
Essentially, yeah, you're at half. And that makes, 19 of 19 probably isn't something that, carrying forward. That's one of those things you're just like, oh, sweet, like we'll take that. But the way that they're protecting the basketball, I think, is something that they can continue to take forward here. And that's, that's also a credit to just how good they've been really largely offensively through the first 8 quarters of this series.
Yeah, I think one other play that I want to bring up here too, I think you guys I want you both to touch on this, but the stupid decision by Kevin Porter Jr. to grab Thomas Bryant's leg when they were kind of fighting for that rebound. Bryant falls down. Kevin Porter Jr. kind of grabs him to stop it. So it becomes a flagrant foul on Kevin Porter Jr., but because it stopped the action, was labeled a clear path foul or whatever the terminology is for that. So the Pacers were able to pick their free throw shooter for the flagrant foul shot compared to making Thomas Bryant just shoot those. So I thought Kevin Porter Jr. shot the Bucks in the foot more than he helped them out in this game. I know he had some big buckets there, especially at the end of the third, like you mentioned, the big 3 after Siakam hit one with like 3 seconds left and everybody was excited in the arena, and it was a silencer. But like he had some big buckets, but I felt like he made so many dumb decisions, and that one really, to me, Facci topped it off for like the Kevin Porter Jr. experience tonight.
Yeah, that was definitely tough. We've seen the Bucks have a couple of those, Kuzma's kicking out his leg or, KPJ's grabbing a foot. It's a little bit of a desperation type of foul. This was that type of game where I know that situation didn't get chippy, but there was a lot of chippiness. There was a lot of scuffles and separations going on and double technicals. And it just feels like this has been building for a while. This is a type of rivalry. Maybe you're introducing new pieces like a KPJ, but I just feel like there is that kind of bad blood between these two teams. And I love the fact that Indiana's taken those punches on the chin and, they're talking back. They're not backing down. And it's been great to see. So I'm really happy about this group, how they're responding. They're not afraid. They do not fear the deer in any type of way. And man, this is a Pacers team right now that I hope they do get their credit. I really do, because I feel like I'm seeing on national media things, what the Bucks need to do to get back in this series. What about the fact of what Indiana's doing right to take this series? This is a team that defended home court. They wanted home court. They got home court. They took care of it. Dating back to last year's playoffs, their only losses at home were against Boston. You could live with those at home. So it's great to go up 2-0, makes you feel real confident. You're in for a very tough game 3. But, Alex, I think we've gone this far. Talk to me a little bit about what you liked out of Pascal Siakam, because he had some real big moments. He's been incredibly consistent through 2 games, and he needs some flowers.
Yeah, Pascal is just so good. I thought early on in the game, his shot looked a little bit rough. He was like 3 of 9 at one point. I didn't feel like the shot was going in at the level that you wanted it to go in at. But then he just slowly kind of worked his way up to the 24 points that he ends up getting, right? Didn't even feel like he led the team in scoring. I just feel like he just does this every single game. You just look at the scoreboard, you're like, how did Pascal get to this point? And he hit timely buckets in this game once again, which we, are just accustomed to expecting from now on. And this is the reason why, like Tyrese said in the postgame, you go out and get Pascal Siakam in a trade. He is an all-NBA level player, and the Pacers needed that number 2 next to Tyrese. And we've been talking about this for years. The Pacers needed a number 2 for the longest time. I feel like Paul George wants, the team kind of like change into him being the face of the franchise, right? They never really had their number 2 guy. It was like George Hill, CJ Miles, Thad Young. Like, you just constantly saw it. Even when Oladipo was the number 1 guy, like your number 2 guy was a Bojan or like Sabonis on any given night. Now you have a team that's got a consistent 1-2 punch with terrific role players that play right around what they're trying to do. So I just think that the way that they've gone out and assembled this team together, people don't really think of the Pacers as like this high-level caliber team just because they don't put up the big stats like Giannis does on a night-to-night basis, but they play with so much depth. 6 guys tonight, 14 points or more. And I think that we over-talk the strength in numbers point, Derek, but I just think that, Pascal 24, like that's equivalent to Giannis's 34, just because of what they have in terms of depth-wise compared to what a lot of other teams have on their rosters as well.
He's just such a steadying force too. Like it just feels like even when things are shaky and, like he hits the shot to put them up 5 and it was kind of the first time to sort of exhale. Like, and I don't even mean necessarily like in a clutch way, even though we've seen Siakam be clutch. I just mean just in general, like he's like the constant for this team. I feel like even when things are going, not too high, not too low, like Siakam is always just kind of there and he's always sort of producing and can be that steadying force. So I just think that he brings a lot of value just from that, which doesn't even always show up in the box score. But I'm kind of like you, Alex. Like I looked afterwards and I'm like, damn, 24 points on 15 shots and 7 boards. And, we knew he ate up a couple of fouls and that's going to happen, given the defensive matchups and things like that. But he sort of quietly, I think, had a really great game. Whereas I think he loudly had a great game in game 1. But you're right. Kind of going back to the overlying point here and you look through the rest of it too, where you had Aaron Nesmith and he gave you some good minutes tonight and knocked down some shots. And Halliburton obviously was better than he was in game 1, even though this still wasn't, I wouldn't argue was a great game from Tyrese. He was much more effective than he was. Everyone that hit the floor tonight, I think at least just did something that contributed to the win. And the Bucks, to me, are still trying to find the right combination and kind of throwing things out there and seeing what sticks because they have too many guys that really aren't giving them a whole heck of a lot. Hell, Thomas Bryant getting an offensive rebound and then getting his leg tugged That's something, right? Even though he ended up with 0 points, that's something. Yeah, there you go.
I mean, let's be honest. The Thomas Bryant minutes tonight were actually pretty good. Like, I didn't feel like he was as problematic as he was. And look, in game one, I should say, but I was a little bit surprised that the Bucks went away from AJ Green. There's someone that's bringing that up here in the comment section, but like AJ Green was really good as a 3-point shooter against the Pacers. And I know Kyle Kuzma did play much better in this game. Started off terribly for the Pacers. I thought it actually started terribly for the Bucks. I thought it started out great for the Pacers. Like they're trying to feed Kuzma to get him going early offensively, especially after all of the hoopla that was going on, in the media, just, pretty much dragging this guy. And I think it was, the Bucks' intention to try to get him going early. And he just blows 2 wide open layups at the beginning of the game. Pacers go 3 of 3. Now you're up 8-0. And like that field house is just erupting, like unbelievable. Like I thought the roof was going to come off. That's how loud it was. Rick Carlisle's talking about how loud it was. So I just think that, they're just a really different team that like you said, they're still trying to figure out what they want to do against this Pacers team. And, I'm assuming Dame is only going to get better as this series goes on. So that's going to have to be something problematic you look forward to kind of having to adjust to moving forward. But Facci, I mean, Ben Mathurin, I feel like he's just been very consistent off the bench. And I feel like the bench minutes have been very scary at times with this group. It's been a lot of TJ McConnell hero ball. And I haven't loved the looks they've gotten, especially when they're playing against Giannis-less, lineups out there. Do you think the Pacers should make any tweaks to their second unit and try to like have more of the starting group mixed in with the bench unit there, for game 3?
Yeah, I'd probably say so. I think for Mathurin, the bulk of his production have come in like the second quarter of each of these first 2 games where he's had like, 8 or so points in like the second quarter and then kind of quieter second halves. I don't think you've gotten the type of production from like an Obi Toppin that you've really wanted. But I feel like McConnell, this was just a so-so game from McConnell. The bench has been all right, but I feel that you should mix in some starters so you never have those minutes where it's too bench heavy. We've seen at times when Indiana's ever going with, say, 4 bench guys and 1 starter, it's just not good. So I think find ways to kind of balance that out. I would like to be able to find ways to get Mathurin going in the second half of games as well. I think that's going to be really important. Plays just 17 minutes in this game. I think that, Obi Toppin played 21. The rest of the team, probably averaged about, say, anywhere between 10 to 17 minutes. So this was what you do in the playoffs, going a little bit heavier with the starting lineup. But I thought the starters just played such a good game tonight that the bench wasn't as needed. But I think that there will be times where you do need a TJ McConnell or you do need Obi Toppin to get hot and give you one of those 15 plus, type games where he's hitting threes. So, I do look forward to them kind of mixing things up a little bit. And to your point on Dame, let's expect a big game probably in game 3. Like, he's going to be saying like, hey, it was good to be out there, but I got to back up my words. And I think that he will probably have a game in this series where he goes off for 20 to 25, gets hot from 3. But this was a game that it was more of respect that he was out there. It had been almost about a month, actually been over a month. So you want to give him credit, but I think that there is still a little bit of rust there.
Anything you want to add to that, Derek?
I mean, the good news is that if he does go off in game 3,
still got the lead.
Yeah.
Essentially right now, the Bucks, for the most part, when you're down 2-0 like this and you don't have home court, you kind of have to win 4 straight. You know what I mean? Like your best case scenario, people say 4 out of 5. Well, yeah, 4 out of 5 is great, but that only guarantees you a road game 7, which historically teams win 20% of the time. So yeah, I mean, the Pacers are in just a really good position here. I just think this conversation is far different. If it's 1-1 and you're asking me about tweaks to make and Dame in game 3, like I'm worried about all that stuff. And right now I'm not. And it's not to say that the series is over or anything like that. I just think that the Pacers are in kind of this position where their margin for error is just much wider right now than Milwaukee's. And I think the Bucks have to be pretty frustrated in the sense that they had a good offensive game today. They really did. Yep. And despite all of that, this game really wasn't close until that final 3-4 minute stretch of the fourth quarter. And, at the end of the day, it's an 8-point game. That's what it was at halftime, right? I mean, for the most part, they kind of played even, and the Pacers kept them, like I said, at arm's length outside of that one bad stretch. And I don't want to overrate that one bad stretch just because it came at the end of the game. Like, it can't happen. When Obi hits that shot to go up 15, like it's got to be lights out at that point. Like you have to put that game on ice. And you can't,
right there by the
you can't mess around like they did. And they were very fortunate to kind of come out and Siakam hits the big shot and then Nemhard hits the big shot and it kind of saves the day. But I still think overall they largely controlled this game, just like they've largely controlled this series, albeit with the home court bump. And I get all of that, and Milwaukee's different. And now, you have Dame and you know what to expect. And he played 37 minutes. So, they're going to give him a lot of run. I still, again, confident and comfortable with where the Pacers are and how this series plays out.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to say that the goal is to just win one of the next two on the road, but like if you can just win one of the next two, get back to Indy and close it out in Game 5, I think you feel pretty good about it. But Eddie White brought this up to me before the game tonight. The Pacers are 11-0, Facci, when they start out a series 2 games up with no losses. So he said if they win tonight, they're making it 12-0 in playoff history. That they will, because he's predicting the Pacers win. So thought that was a great nugget from Eddie White. I think I saw it somewhere else after the game as well. But Facci, I mean, I know you love stats and I know you love digging, but 11-0 when they go up 2-0 in a series, like a playoff series, like I don't want to jinx anybody. I don't want to. I got to knock on wood over here, But like it's pretty exciting to hear that stat and just know that it's really in favor for the Pacers.
Man, a 2-0 lead and being 11-0 in history, that feels like something only Doc Rivers could blow. Because I feel like at this point, like, you got to feel confident about that. The way that Indiana's playing at home, it's just unlike anything else. Like, we have a true home court advantage. These players just feel great. At home, they feel comfortable. And like Derek, like you said, this was an improved Milwaukee effort. Like, they got the reinforcement from Dame. You got a huge game from Bobby Portis. I saw in the comments, Raider Zach, you mentioned before, like, that was the Bobby Portis. Oh, no, sorry. Pimpron 18. That's what it was. That was the Bobby Portis game. It was. And we took their best shot and we kept going forward. So I think that the bench will be better at times. They will. Tyrese, from a shooting standpoint, it wasn't great. 8 of 19. Derek, you mentioned it's not something you're going to, tell everybody about. But I like the fact that he was more aggressive early on. He was 6 of 10 in the first half, really setting the tone. So I thought that was great because he was 2 of 7 in the first half in Game 1. He finished the game 3 of 13. So he hasn't shot great, but he was better in this game. The 3 turnovers. I mean, look at us now that we can nitpick and say 3 turnovers, Tyrese. That's not like you, but that's the type of level he's been playing on. So I feel like he could still play better than what we've seen. And if you're going to get an even better Tyrese and you're already up 2-0, it's only a matter of time before some of these guys really catch fire. Like Turner tonight, just 2 rebounds. One of them was actually a really big rebound late in the game. But like Turner's going to have another big game. And I feel like we haven't mentioned anything about him. It was just a cool, calm, steady 15 points. But I feel like Turner is going to have some big games in this series. He'll have more of a rebounding effort. And just overall for this Pacers team, you got to feel confident. You hope we can get some respect. But at the same point, we just do better being the underdogs, being a little bit disrespected, having your franchise player being listed as the most overrated player. Whatever it is, give us the bulletin board material. We're going to make sure we use it as fuel.
Derek, what'd you think about that overrated comment there about Tyrese Haliburton the day that came out with The Athletic? I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, again, like I think if anything, it just adds fuel to the fire, right? A little bit. I think there's this misnomer out there from other fan bases that this team is like soft or like you do this and you talk trash to the Pacers, they're going to back down, and I think they've shown that they're not. I love that they go to bat for each other. I love the fact that Siakam a couple times had to kind of grab Nemhard and be like, yo, chill for a second, because he was getting into it too. I mean, he was jawing back and forth with the Bucks bench. I love stuff like that. I love the fact that that people care enough about Tyrese Haliburton or people care enough about the Pacers to come at them. Because if people are coming at you, that means that you're a threat to them. At worst, you're relevant, right? At best, exactly. you're a threat to them. So it's one of the two things. And both of those things I think are good for Tyrese Halliburton. But, to Facci's point, I think that's another thing about this series where, they're up 2-0 and their best player has been okay, pretty good. Tonight was good. I think this was a good Tyrese performance. Game one was but even I'd have to go back and look at 3 of 10 from 3 tonight. I'd have to go back and look at each one. In game one, I didn't feel like any of the shots that he took were poor shots. I felt okay with him shooting that. And I think that's another thing that he's kind of evolved and grown with, is just kind of shooting himself through it. And like you said, Facci, just staying aggressive. I think that's what they want Halliburton to do. What they don't want him to do is just go into a shell and be afraid to do anything. Like he's going to mess up, or, I shouldn't be taking this shot because I just took this last one and I missed it. Like, you don't want him to kind of be in his head. So that I think that's another reason to sort of feel confident here. But like the overrated thing and just, the added other stuff in this series, as much as I just kind of want to brush it aside, I'm actually sort of embracing it, because this is a lot of people, especially if you're in my age range. And I think even for you guys, like, you remember NBA rivalries. This is a thing. Like, these two teams don't like each other. And that really doesn't happen very much anymore in the league, where teams like clearly do, like Damian Lillard clearly does not like Tyrese Halliburton. Right. Yeah. And so there's a back and forth, Bobby Portis doesn't like anybody. And there's a back and forth when it comes to that really kind of adds to the drama of it all. Because as much as I understand that these guys, might be friendly off the court and things like that, like if they want to do the hugs and hand pounds after, like, I don't care. But the 90s kid in me is like, yeah, like, somebody that was used to Knicks Pacers or Knicks Heat or, some of those other series where the teams truly did not like each other, Pistons Celtics. I'm even old enough to remember some of that when I was really young. You miss that element in today's NBA, because as great as the product is, as much as I defend the product all the time and I still love the NBA, that's one element that's kind of been missing for me. So it's a little bit nostalgic to have a throwback series like this with two teams that genuinely dislike each other.
Facci, I feel like you're chomping at the bit to say something.
No, I mean, it's been great. Look for for even in the last, I can't believe it's already been 20 years. I hated the Pistons. I hated them. Pacers.
I still do.
To me, I mean, there's still the, like, I took that enjoyment seeing them not like win a playoff game for like 15 years. But like, it's cool to see, hey, look, the Pistons are relevant again. Hey, good. I love the fact that Pacers Knicks came back last year, but the fact that we ran into the Bucks 2 years in a row, it's like there's something there. And whether it's been the regular season or it's been the playoffs, Tyrese even said in the postgame, it feels like we've played them 20 times over the last 2 years, and we're not done yet. We have a handful of games left for this year. And I'm already seeing Bucks fans get a little bit nervous on social media. It's like, what is this going to mean for Giannis in the offseason? Like, we got them backpedaling where the Bucks are now. We're starting to see things like, hey, they don't have draft picks. They are kind of maxed out on cap. Like, we have the Bucks sweating. And when you look at this Pacers team, a lot of these players are signed long-term. Not all of them. You still have to work out the Turner situation. Story for another day. But like, it makes us feel like this window is not just 1 year. It's that you have a lot of these guys under contract that can continue to get better. And for right now, like, the Pacers chemistry is elite. And their depth right now, if any of you guys watched Knicks Pistons, it was a ghost town for the Knicks bench. They had nothing going there. And right now it just feels like, hey, we get some contributions from Mathurin. There's some contributions from McConnell. We know there's going to be even more. Like we said, the Obi Toppin game, it's coming. He had some big games in the playoffs. Right now, this Pacers team is clicking at a point where I just hope they can. I don't want them to go to their head. I just want them to get a little bit more respect right now. Putting us on NBA TV. Come on, guys. I mean, what is this? NBA TV, and that's how it is for a decent amount of the series. We are an ESPN TNT product, and I want to see us back where everybody gets, the channels and they could watch it instead of people saying, hey, I'm blacked out or I can't watch this game. You're missing out right now on a really good team if you're not watching.
Facci, you got to be careful with your little jabs at the New York Knicks depth when we got a guest on here that is a resident New York Knicks fan right here, okay? Derek Schultz grew up in New York. He loves the Knicks. He's a Pacers fan now. He's an adopted Pacers fan, but still, Knicks number one before the Pacers for Derek, right?
Oh God, I still have my Pat Ewing.
Hey, there you go. That's
no,
nice.
I'm a retired Knicks fan. Is how I like to say it. Yeah,
retired. Well, I wanted to go back to Tyrese because I think this is a really important thing to just kind of discuss as we kind of wrap this up. Because obviously, like you mentioned tonight, 3 of 10 from three. I think he went 0 of 7 from three in the first game. So 3 of 17 from three. Like he's not shot a good percentage from three, and that's in spite of all that, the Pacers have won. They've never, like Facci mentioned, they've led for the majority of both games here, outside of an 8-7 Bucks early lead in the first quarter of game one. And I just think that we have seen Tyrese Halliburton usually take his game to another level when he's on the road. Yeah, there's been times where he hits big shots at Gainbridge Fieldhouse and things like that. But usually this is where your bench and your other guys, kind of like your role player guys, step up at home. It's on the road when you need your stars to kind of carry you. And we saw Giannis carry the Bucks, as far as he could, but there was no other star carrying the Bucks with him. And I think, Bobby Portis did his best, attempt at that tonight. Damian Lillard did not really kind of carry his load. But if Ty and Pascal can kind of lead the team in scoring, I think, and just kind of, pick up for some of the slack that you're going to get from some of your bench guys on the road, that's going to help. But I just think also, in addition to that, Derek, I want to get your thoughts on this. Just like the maturity that we've seen from this team from last year's playoff run to this year's playoff run. A lot of people were kind of deeming this Pacers team from last year as the Atlanta Hawks 2021 run, where they ended up losing in the Eastern Conference Finals to Milwaukee, where I think the Pacers are kind of solidifying themselves as a legitimate team right now and saying, no, we're not on the same level as that Hawks team once was.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that experience helps, and it's really going to help them when they get away from the friendly confines of Gainbridge, right, and go back to Milwaukee, where they all have experience of what that was like last year. But, I would love to see Halliburton just kind of come back and do, similar to what he did last year. I think it was – they ended up losing this game, but I think it was game 2 of the series against the Knicks, where, remember, he didn't particularly play well in the opening round. And then game 1, he was a non-factor in a game that the Pacers could have won. And then in game 2, he just went off. I think he had 38, 39 points. He hit 7 or 8 3-pointers, something like that. And it felt like he really kind of leaned into being the road villain. And, obviously this is a franchise that thrived with, maybe the greatest road villain in NBA playoff history, in Reggie Miller for all those years, particularly in New York as well. But I do think that not getting too high, not getting too low is really what, Rick Carlisle has done a good job of kind of preaching that. And I think that's where this Pacers team will be, having kind of been there, done that last year. I mean, you talk about a roller coaster. I mean, look at last year's playoff run where, game 1, they get run out of the building by the Bucks, and then they come all the way back and they win, right? They're down 2-0 to the Knicks. And even after, game 5's kind of a laugher, and they have to come back to Indiana, and then they win a road game 7. They kind of went through everything that you could go through in the first 2 rounds of those playoff series. So I think that experience is invaluable in case they hit any bumps in the road that are coming up here. But again, to reiterate, I mean, in order for the Bucks to win this series, they're probably going to have to try to find a way to win, it certainly at least the next 2, but, maybe 4 in a row. Because if they don't win, if they lose either of these games in Milwaukee, guys, Pacers aren't losing twice in Indy. It's not happening. So I think at that point you can really put the series on ice. But with where they are right now, they are in the catbird seat. This is a really, really good spot for them to be in, considering that I think they've played well, and I think the supporting cast has been really good. Turner's been great, Siakam's been great, Nemhard's been great. I still don't think we've gotten like an A++ game type game. So I still think there's a little bit more that the Pacers can do, and a lot of that has to do with Halliburton playing at a higher level than what he's played through the first 2 games.
Facci?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't want to get ahead. I'm very not surprised. We haven't seen anyone, I would say. I don't think anyone's saying sweep. Like, I don't think that's happening yet.
I've seen fans on Twitter. I mean, there's definitely some irrational Pacer fans, right?
Exactly. There's always going to be a couple. Like, look, trust me, I got Pacer mania running through my veins right now. I'm hyped. And it's late right now, and I still got that hype.
Like a 17-time champion hype, right?
Hey, there you go. Yep. But look, I think at this point, it's just like, take care of business. If you can win game 3, and that's, I think in my opinion, it's always probably the hardest game to win when you go and it changes over. And it's like the home team, if they're ever down, 2-0, they're going to come out like a caged animal, just fighting for their life. So the Bucks are going to give us their best shot. But if Indiana wins just one of those games, we are ending this, and it could end in 5. It could, but you never want to get too comfortable. So I hope this doesn't go to the Pacers' head. I hope they can still treat every single game just sort of as like, hey, it's 0-0 or anything of that sort. We're starting over. That's the mentality you have to have. We've seen this Pacers team do a much better job taking care of opponents that were lesser than them. They really struggled with that last year. This year, they did better with that. I also feel like this team, there's nothing fraud about them. There's nothing where, oh, they haven't been there. Nope. Like you said, Derek, they've trailed 2-0 before. They've trailed 1-0 before. They've but they haven't actually been in this spot, having the lead. It is a little bit of uncharted territory, but I just feel like this team's more mature, like you said, Alex, than previous groups where having a lead isn't a bad thing that you're going to get too comfortable with. I think it's a blessing to have this type of situation. Don't fumble it. Keep your foot on the gas.
I always want to make sure that I'm not being a homer when I pick the Pacers to go up 2-0 in a series. I just felt confident coming into this game that the Pacers were going to take care of business. I think they understood the importance of winning this game, not going to Milwaukee tied 1-1. I think that they've kind of reached that level, and I think that they just believe in themselves. They're just a well-connected group. They've been playing great basketball since January, so it's hard not to believe in them. And I think Rick even mentioned it tonight after the game, just the way they had so many clutch games here at the end of the season, just going through all those battles, overcoming a really bad start to the beginning of the season. Like, they've just been through the ups and downs of what it takes to become a great team. And I think we're seeing it, unfold before our eyes. And, I'm doing a podcast yesterday as a guest. And one of the guests was asking me about what a potential series could look like against the Cavaliers. And I'm like, well, we're only one game into this. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. But, that's kind of the excitement I think people have just around the league of what this Indiana Cavaliers series could be like if the Pacers make it out of round 1. So I just feel very confident. But, we definitely need to end our show here. I know Derek needs to get off here. I'm sorry for keeping you a little bit later. I know we got a little bit of a late start time because I was covering the game as media stuff. But we got to go through our player awards. So I'll just start off, get both your opinions here. We'll start with you, Derek. Facci, you follow after. MVP of the game, Derek, who would you give that to tonight?
I think it's got to be, and there are a couple of candidates here. I think it's got to be Siakam to me. I just felt like he was, he hit a big shot, of course, at the end to extend the lead from 2 to 5. He was all over the stat sheet. He did a great job rebounding the basketball. Had to kind of bear it on the other end of the floor and eat up some fouls with Giannis and all of that too. And again, he's just kind of the steadying force that, things get really good, things get really bad. It doesn't really matter. He just kind of stays. He's the constant for the Pacers. And I think you can go in any number of directions with this because I think Nemhard obviously played a fantastic game as well, but Siakam is the pick for me.
Yeah, I think you really could go in a lot of different directions. And, I know we put up a poll. I know what the poll says, but I think I'm going Siakam. I just think that this was a really solid game. He was each quarter he gave you something. He didn't have any duds. Finished it with 24 points, 11 boards, 3 steals. I mean, he defending Giannis, no matter what Giannis puts up, that's an extremely tough battle. So I'll give it a Siakam, but it really feels like 2 or 3 Pacers could have shared it.
Yeah, and I'll accept Andrew Nembhard. If Andrew Nembhard is your pick, that is perfectly fine with me because you can create a fantastic argument for Andrew Nembhard to be the MVP of the game too.
Yeah, on our group chat on Chat BCC, which is a cool app that you can join and talk Pacers basketball with us, I did put a poll out there for the MVP of the game, and the fans said that Tyrese Halliburton was their MVP by 52% of the vote, 29% to Pascal, 19% to Nembhard. So was a little bit surprised to see that, but I do think that the double-double and all the, the ridicule that Tyrese got, I think fans are just kind of going to bat for him. But when I asked for the clutch player of the game, it was really interesting to me because I put Pascal and Andrew as the only 2 players that I thought were eligible for this award for Reggie Miller clutch player of the game. The fans picked Andrew Nembhard 85%. Derek, would you agree with that?
Well, I just think he's built himself a rep, right?
Yes.
I mean, he has built himself a rep as, Nemhard takes that shot. And if that's a Wednesday night game in January against Toronto, you're like, that's not going in. But because it's a playoff game and it's a whatever 5-point game with 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter, you're like, that's going through. And bang, there's just something about him. He plays with just a confidence and a swagger. It's just hard not to really like. Playoff Drew, right? Is that what they're saying in the poll as well? I love it. I think it's great.
There's a lot of stuff being said in the polls. I would say a lot of Nemhard. Welcome to Nemhard. That's kind of a new thing here, which I love. So, defensive player of the game, Facci. I mean, I think you would probably agree that Andrew is the clutch player of the game.
I would. And I know you can make an argument that maybe Siakam's 3 was a little bit more clutch because it was a 2-point game.
A little bit tighter of a game at that point. Rick said it was one of the biggest playoff shots you'll ever see.
It was huge. I mean, look, the Siakam 3, it ended the drought. I mean, the Pacers were on, the Milwaukee was on a 13-0 run. Indiana was going cold as could be. Siakam did hit a big shot, but there was just something about that Nembhard 3, like I mentioned earlier, on Giannis when it happened that felt like it iced the game. And to me, I'm going to give Nembhard the moment because, the clutch player award, because there's something about that 3 that really, I feel like, broke the spirit of Milwaukee.
But guys, Siakam's whole career has been this, though, right? Where he makes the big shot, but you're talking about somebody else after the game. You're always talking about somebody else instead of Siakam. And then you look at the box score and you're like, damn, he was great. Yep. And, that's just, I think that's the perfect summation. I don't think he cares, but I think that's the perfect summation of how good of a player. You forget how good he is. That's how good he is. If that makes sense. That's how I feel about Siakam seemingly all the time.
And to your point on that, I had to go just out of order before. And whoa, guys, can we just give Siakam some flowers earlier? Because it's it's hard to really just work it in here of Siakam had his fingerprints all over this game, but he's just consistently always very good. And the Pacers, we've said it before, they're nowhere even in this area if you don't bring on a Pascal Siakam. So it's unfortunate that, he always does get overshadowed. He was our all-star this year, but you know what? He's the perfect number 2 because you always know what you're going to get out of him. And then there's always someone else that's really rising to the occasion. So rock solid, rock steady, but I'm still going Nemhard.
Okay, and then I would say lastly here, just quickly, because we'll just go through them quick. Defensive player of the game, the fans voted 90% Andrew Nembhard. And then for our feisty Foster player of the game, we had 71% for Andrew Nembhard. So Andrew Nembhard was running away with everything tonight except for the MVP of the game. So, I mean, that just kind of shows you the impact that he had in this one here. Do you guys have any, arguments about who should win defensive player or feisty Foster player of the game? Kind of similar, but a little bit different.
None. I really don't. I talked about it before that it's one of the big switches you mentioned. Neesmith started out on Dame in the second half, but Nemhard has he's been such a great fit and such an awful situation for Dame. He's just really locked in on him. Big part of why Dame struggled in that second half. And he is such an underrated defender. When people are talking about how overrated Tyrese is, Andrew Nembhard is incredibly underrated to the point where I don't even know what sort of votes he'll get for any all-defensive team. He's not going to be eligible due to missing games. But I don't know how that would have shaken out because if teams don't even watch the Pacers, are they watching Andrew Nemhard's defense on a nightly basis? I don't think enough people are. Those that do can absolutely appreciate it, that this man locks in, night out, takes on the toughest challenges, and most of the time comes out on top. So you can't give this man enough praise. Shout out to Andrew Nemhard.
I will say this. The only player I think that maybe I should have put on the poll for the feisty Foster player of the game was James Johnson. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but I was able to post it in the arena during that first little scuffle that happened between Gary Trent Jr. and Pascal Siakam. And then I know that Mathurin got in the middle of it. Portis got in the middle of it. They're kind of chirping, but not really saying much. All of a sudden, James Johnson just stands up. And the Jumbotron just pans over to James Johnson, and the crowd erupts like we're at a WWE event. They just go nuts. He smiles, all the grills in his teeth. I mean, I don't even know if the guy even had a jersey on at that point, but I'm just going to say, just the aura that James Johnson brings to this team when there's ever a scuffle. It's I think in this poll of all these different questions they ask, he was, voted the one that you'd least likely want to get in a fight with. So I just think that the Pacers having this enforcer on their team, he doesn't play, but he's still very impactful. And so I just thought it was absolutely awesome to kind of see him get a playoff moment at Gainbridge Fieldhouse without stepping a foot on the court, Foch.
It's great. I mean, it's he just has to do just so little just to get that pop from the crowd. It's just his mere presence is enough for people to just settle down and stop with the scuffling. And he's just been such a great teammate, such a great leader. He can be feisty without having to be feisty. It's just a simple look that he might have to give. I'm happy he's on our side.
Derek, any final thoughts before we sign off here for everybody on the podcast and for the YouTube page?
No, I feel great about where the Pacers are, guys, and I think really it's just about as much as it's a players stars league, right? So it's Giannis. You know how they get Giannis, the best player in the series. How are they going to stop Giannis? This series to me is about, can they keep getting these sort of contributions from Nemhard and from Turner, and can Nesmith make open shots when he has them, and all these things, all these little things, and free throws, and can they at least control themselves on the glass and be okay from a rebounding standpoint, like all those things like that. That's what decides the series to me, not like this like Giannis v Tyrese mano y mano thing. Like, to me, that's what it's about, and the Pacers have, I think, a lot more of that, or at least a lot more confidence in that than what the Bucks have. I think the Pacers very much know who they are. And, Milwaukee, I still think, tries to kind of tinker and figure some things out. And, 2-0 is a great place to be. They've never lost historically, as we found out from our buddy Eddie White. And with that home court advantage, like the pop that they get from Gamebridge tonight, it's just, I could hear it through the TV. I mean, it was incredible. That puts them in an excellent position here moving forward, and they can go ahead and end the series on Friday night. I mean, they could. They'll have the opportunity to do that, but I also don't want to count out Milwaukee because of their championship pedigree, and with Dame and with Giannis. Like, the series is not over. I just feel very good and confident and comfortable where the Pacers are right now.
Facci, any final thoughts from you on this game and just moving forward?
Just game 3 is going to be brutal. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a dogfight, a bloodbath. Milwaukee's going to come out, fighting for their lives. But I think that this Pacers team, they're just simply from top to bottom. They're deeper. They're better. Milwaukee, we've known, like you said, Derek, they have the best player. But how often can just one guy get it done? I mean, that doesn't work. That's why a guy like LeBron has a losing record in the NBA Finals. You need a team when it comes to the playoffs. Indiana has a great team in place. Everybody knows their role. They thrive in those roles. You don't get duds across the board. You're not wondering who could be a number 2 or 3 option. You have quite a few guys that could be fighting to be a number 2 or 3 option on any given night, instead of saying, well, maybe it's Gary Trent Jr. or AJ Green or anything like that. No, we have guys that have been there. So I'm fired up. I'm excited. 2-0. It's something that, like I said, the Pacers haven't experienced since 2013, which means that no one on this roster has experienced that. So it's a great spot to be in. Let's keep our foot on the gas. Let's not get too comfortable. Let's know at any point this could turn into a series. But if Indiana can, like you said, Derek, go up 3-0, in the NBA, we know that's never happened before. I still don't believe it's happened. I know in baseball, when you're up 3-0, 99% of the time across all of sports.
Why are you pulling another Yankees thing on Derek? I mean, this is a New York guy. You're just bringing up the
I'm a New York guy.
You're a Mets guy. Quit picking on our guest.
I mean,
I stayed up late for you, Facci, to do this show.
I appreciate it.
The Facci curse is just hitting you hard there.
No, absolutely. We're not going to pin this on me. All right, Derek, I appreciate you coming on. We love having you on. You are good luck. We know your track record in game 2s. It is untouchable. So
what is your track record in game 2s? Have we had you on for game 2s too? I can't remember.
That's what we've had him on.
No, it's been game 1s. We've lost every game 1 that he's come on to recap.
We did a couple of game 1s that did not go well.
So we changed it up this time around.
Yeah, well, I think that's what we did. Yeah.
Well, you know what? And then this year you are 1-0 in game 2.
We never lose when you're
on.
There we go. Yeah.
And I want to keep it going. It's 2025. We're starting a new record. I'm not going to get too ahead of myself. I'm not going to go to a game because I can't mess up things right now. The Pacers track record with me in the building, it's awful. Let's just keep it with you and game 2s. And Alex, close us out.
Yeah, I just want to let you guys know that we will have more content for you. Obviously, Facci's still juggling being a new dad once again, so he'll be back. We'll be doing that recap on Friday night's game Saturday morning, so be on the lookout for that. We're going to go live on YouTube around 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, so stay tuned, get up early for that one. But tomorrow I'm going to have James Boyd on to kind of talk about this game and look forward to game 2 a little bit. And then on Friday, Rohan Caddy from the Eurostep podcast will be joining me to give us more of a Bucks perspective. So a lot of exciting things coming to you here on the podcast feed. Probably won't be going live for anything other than the post-game recaps. But, just want to thank you all so much for chiming in with your comments here. It's been a lot of fun just seeing what you guys have to say about this game and what your thoughts are on what we're talking about. So a lot of fun. And of course, Derek, really do appreciate your insight and staying up with us late tonight. I know it was a bit of a late one here on a Tuesday night. We're already into Wednesday morning at 12:03. So I hope you guys get some rest. And Facci, like you said, the pep in the step, it's got to be there on a Wednesday morning. You just got to feel a little bit extra with a playoff pep in the step. And, I think the Pacers have found that pep as well. So with that being said, we close this out. Facci, if you're hoping the Pacers can get a victory in game 3 on Friday night against the Milwaukee Bucks, hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers.